Yo, what is good, everybody? What is good, gamers? What is good, YouTube? It is your boy Lincoln Clay coming back at you with another GT Sport full-blown video with commentary. Let's all be one cohesive unit and hit the like button. Help spread the content to a wider audience. I would appreciate it. Make sure you hit the bell icon so you can stay notified when I put out new content. And if you are a new subscriber, welcome to the channel. I hope you are enjoying the content. And so, as you can see right here, this is the starting grid. I qualified with a time of 1:37.271, which was a huge surprise to me. I went ahead and ran that lap. And truth be told, I really thought I was going to start out in about 10th, 11th place or something like that. So I was shooting for a goal to try to finish up in about 8th place. And when the race actually started, to my surprise, I was starting out in 4th place. So that was a pleasant surprise right there. And so at that point, when I realized that I was going to be starting in 4th place, my goal became to try to finish up in the top 3. And so let's pretty much get to the action. All right, as you can see right here, I'm sitting in 4th position, waiting for the race to start. And again, I was pleasantly surprised that I was able to start out in the 4th position on the starting grid. And as you can see right here, this is basically the warm up, warm the tires up, get the car, get the tires warmed up, get ready for the race, and then any second the race is going to start. So we're officially underway. Now this first curve right here is it was a curve that makes you think you can carry a lot of speed into that curve, but I kind of had to coast into that curve because I didn't want to slide off the track, because at this point my goal was to just stay with the pack, and then if anybody flies off the track or gets hit with a penalty, that's when I plan to make my move. As you can see right here, I actually, I'm in 3rd place right here, and I'm caught up in a battle with the 2nd place car, and I actually slipped into 2nd place for a second. I think right here I'm in 2nd place. I'm getting ready to make a move, and right there, boom, we bumped each other, and we both sent each other off the track. I was so fortunate that there was still asphalt right there and not grass, so I was able to save it and still stay with the pack. And then as we're going through these snake curves right here, I didn't want to be aggressive because I didn't want to risk flying off the track right there. As you see, I cut across the grass, and again, the goal was to try to stay with these cars and make the move whenever it was time to make the move, if I had to make the move. And so as you can see right here, I'm in 3rd place, and the car that's behind me, the BMW, you can see that he's driving a little aggressive. I don't think he was dirty. He wasn't dirty at all, but he was aggressive. There was some incidental contact. And then right here, I think this is a hairpin turn right here, which was a very sharp turn. And then this sets you up for the straightaway right here. And as you can see right behind me, the BMW, he slipstreamed me and he made his move right here. Now, I consciously remember making a decision right here. Then when we got to this curve right here, I decided to let him go because it just wasn't worth flying off the track and falling way to the back of the pack. And right there, you've seen it right there. I hit the grass, lost the back end. I was able to save it. So I was very, very fortunate to not only be able to save the car, but to keep all the other cars within sight. And so again, we're going right here through these snake curves. Again, I didn't want to be aggressive through these curves. So basically, I kind of coasted through these curves. I just lightly tapped the brake and coasted through these curves, because again, I didn't want to run the risk of losing them. And then when you cut across these rumble strips as you go and cut in the corners, you have to be very careful, because if any part of the car hits that grass, it is over. And with this car being all-wheel drive that I'm using during qualifying, I cut across the rumble strips a couple of times, and I went too far inside and I flew off the track, spun out. So I had to make it a point that was not going to happen during a race. So I had to make it a point to, as I was saying, go through those snake curves, and kind of right there, you can see I lost it right there. So through those snake curves, I had to make it a point not to be super aggressive, to kind of just coast through those curves, and then just make sure I had good exit speed going into the straightaway. So right here, I believe this is the hairpin turn right here. This is a crucial turn right here. It's kind of hard to get good exit speed coming out of that corner. at that point, all I was telling myself is that I just wanted to get out of that corner clean. And so, yes, exit speed is everything in this game. But, you know, again, I was trying to hang on to that 4th place for dear life. And, you know, I would have been sorely disappointed if I would have started out in 4th place and ended up in 12th place or something like that from spinning out. Because I had last night, I ran about 10 races on a track, and it was a very terrible race. I couldn't get a clean lap in without me making a mental mistake and flying off the track, or somebody knocking me off the track, you know, because I was really frustrated being in there with a bunch of amateurs last night. But this race right here was pretty clean. Now right there again, I went off the track, a mental mistake. I was so fortunate that it wasn't grass there, because if it would have been grass there, the car would have spun out and it would have been over. So again, you know, I'm coming through these S curves, you know, as I think by the time we got to the 2nd or the 3rd lap, and I was starting to understand, you know, the braking points and the exit speed points, I was trying to be a little more aggressive, but not so much that I was risking spinning the car out. Now these right here, these is some deceiving curves right here. You think you got to hit the brakes because they on the map it looks kind of sharp, but actually you can carry a little bit of speed into that corner right there and get good exit speed coming out of that corner into the straightaway. And so then that brings you to this hairpin right here, and again, that's a critical turn right there where you want to keep the car straight. Again, in qualifying, you know, I made a couple of mistakes trying to be aggressive going through that hairpin turn because I was so concerned about getting good exit speed that I carried too much speed in there, and then ended up flying off the course into the grass and spun out. So, you know, it's you know, the practice that I ran, you know, the couple of practice laps that I had definitely paid off, and it helped me know the braking points, know when to step on the gas, know when to coast through these curves. And as you can see, you know, I cut a couple of these curves kind of close, and I was just coasting. And again, I didn't want to hit the brakes through these curves. I didn't want to slam on the brakes and risk losing more time. So I coasted through those curves. And right here, as you can see, you know, that's the hairpin turn again. You know, kind of coasted through that curve, coming through these kind of wide snake curves right here. But these snake curves right here, there was a couple of them that was actually kind of sharp and kind of deceiving. So again, you know, I tried to keep nice tight lines, and it actually paid off because I actually, you know, got within sight of the 3rd place car, and the whole time that I was running this race, I saw that the 3rd place car in front of me had a penalty that he had to serve. But you know, I don't know how much the penalty was, but I did know that he had a penalty that he had to serve. So at some point, one of two things was going to happen. Either he was going to have to slow down and serve that penalty, and with me being in sight of him, I would have been able to get past him. Or if he decides not to serve the penalty, then it will be tacked on at the end of the race. And if I'm like within a second or less of him, then that should be enough for me to finish up ahead of him. So at this point, you know, he was within my sights. I didn't feel like I was going to catch him, but all I wanted to do was just keep him in my sights. So whenever the penalty kicks in, then I would be able to benefit from that. And so at some point, I'm thinking to myself that, you know, this guy has to know he's got that penalty. He's going to have to slow down. One of the things that a lot of people do in this game when it comes to the penalties, they'll run like 99% of the race, and then maybe like, you know, a quarter of a mile or something like that before they get to the finish line, they'll hit the brakes to slow down so they can try to run off that clock, you know, the penalty clock, and then try to coast across the finish line because they don't want to try to come to a complete stop to serve the penalty, because that would be a backbreaker. So at this point, I don't know, you know, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he knew that I was, you know, within range or something like that. He probably felt like if he slowed down to serve the penalty, he would give up, you know, his 3rd position. Or maybe his thinking was that, you know, keep his foot on the gas and wait for me to make a mistake, and I would fall far enough behind that the penalty wouldn't come into play. But as you can see, coming around this hairpin turn right here, you can see how close I got to him right there. And once I got that close to him, I actually started thinking that maybe I can get past this guy, and maybe I can actually try to shoot for 2nd place. But here we are at the finish line. He goes across 3rd, I go across, I'm in 3rd place now. And as you can see by his car right there, he finished up in 4th place. He elected not to serve the penalty, so he ended up paying for it, and he fell back into 4th place for it. And this is my best finish ever, a 3rd place finish. I was elated with that finish. Even if it came by way of penalty, I was still very, very happy with that finish. And so, you know, again, I'm so happy with that finish. You know, it was a podium finish, and you know, that's what happens when you run these clean races. You keep the pack within sight. You run these clean races, run nice tight lines, and I ended up, you know, fortunate with a podium finish. So there you have it. You know, not a very fast track, but a track where you definitely have to stay focused so you can keep nice tight lines through those curves. And that was the goal when I noticed that I was starting in the 4th position, was to stay with the pack and keep the car in front of me within my sights. Wait for him to make a mistake, but he did one even better. And, you know, he got a 4-second penalty. So at that point, you know, all I needed to do was stay within 4 seconds of him, and he chose not to serve the penalty. So that definitely worked out in my favor because the time was tacked on at the end of the race. So again, you know, that's my best finish ever. As a matter of fact, the 4th place, the 4th position that I started in was my best start on the starting grid ever. So I was elated about both of them, but I failed to record my qualifying lap because I didn't think it was going to qualify that high. I thought I was going to end up starting in about 10th, 11th, 12th place or something like that. And then, you know, the goal from that point was to try to get to about 8th place. But, you know, all that went out of the window when I saw that I was starting 4th. So, you know, very good race. I think, yes, I made a few mental mistakes. And fortunately, I did not make those mistakes where there was grass. Otherwise, the car would have spent out and I would have paid dearly for that. Because, you know, when it comes to the traction control on the car, I don't have the traction control turned all the way off, but I don't have it turned all the way on. So if I do step on the gas coming out of curves, there is a little bit of slippage. The car does spin out a little bit, so I still have to give the pedal the right amount of touch coming out of curves, especially, you know, if I go into the grass or something like that, because that's a spin out waiting to happen. But again, I got really fortunate, you know. So then I decided to throw this little clip in here of you know, the car touring cities, and that is amazing work by the developers to, you know, put a car, you know, a car from the video game part of the car into real life settings, and that is so cool. You know, I can't tell you how much I love this game, and I think this game still may be $20 for the days of play sale or something like that, and I think it's well worth the $20. And you know, and I did use my Thrustmaster T150 racing wheel for this race, so that definitely made a huge difference. This Thrustmaster T150 racing wheel was $200. It was the toughest. It was the cheapest wheel that I could find. It had force feedback, and in my opinion, if you're going to go off and buy a racing wheel, there is the Thrustmaster T80, which that racing wheel does not have force feedback. And if you're going to buy a racing wheel and it doesn't have force feedback, in my opinion, there's no point in buying the wheel. But you know, thanks for watching the video. This is your boy Lincoln Clay. Give it a like, and I'm out.